Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another episode review from Season 6 of The Loud House. Today's episode is titled, Fashion No-Show. First we'll discuss the plot, and then my thoughts and critiques with my final score. So, let's get right into it. The episode begins with Carlota interning for famous fashion designer Mariella Moss, who puts her in charge of an upcoming fashion show, and hires Leni as her personal assistant. However, Mariella seems to prefer Leni's quirky ideas over Carlota's, and puts Leni in charge of the show. This prompts Carlota to send Leni on a wild goose chase while she, Carl, and Sergio take control in getting things ready for the show, and the dress rehearsal turns into a total disaster. They go out looking for Leni, and when they find her, Carlota apologizes for doing what she tried to do to her friend. The episode ends with both fashionistas reconciling and putting on an amazing show, with both of them being hired to work together on another one. Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to my thoughts and critiques. I've been waiting a long time for this episode when it was first announced, and for the most part, it did not disappoint. Leni and Carlota are the main characters of this episode, and it's another unique crossover pairing between the Loud House and Casa Grande's. I know they technically already had a little team up in the Halloween special Great Lakes Freakout, but this time their shared love for fashion was more prominent because that's what the story was primarily about. Speaking of story, even though this is a Loud House episode, the atmosphere makes you believe this was meant to be part of the spin-off. Seeing how Carlota has a more leading role than Leni, and noting how the conflict plays out, this counts as more of a Casa Grande's episode, but I guess that's beside the point. Anyway, it was really great seeing these two fashionistas interacting in an episode that played to the designer aspect of their respective characters, and even more so when their respective styles started to clash. These two had a very interesting dynamic because while Carlota was presented as a more traditional designer, Leni was quirkier and very much out there in how she approached things. Also, their roles sort of evolved during the first half of the plot, or at least Carlota's role changed once Leni showed up. You see, Carlota was originally hired as just a basic intern for Mariella Moss, and she was mostly doing odd jobs for everyone around her. She didn't offer a huge amount of creative input because Mariella was the one in charge of everything. Leni was only hired to be a personal assistant, and Carlota was meant to have full creative control of the upcoming fashion show. Basically, Leni was assuming Carlota's original role, and Carlota, in a sense, was assuming a higher-up leadership position. However, by being her usual ditzy and lovable self, Leni was impressing the top boss with her many eccentric ideas, and was inadvertently stealing Carlota's new role at the studio. This made Carlota both surprised and jealous at how Leni was able to take away something important to her, and she viewed Leni's ideas as, well, far too wacky for her own taste. Granted, it wasn't really Leni's fault because Mariella was the one who thought the wackiness was in good taste, and I'm sure Leni could have done a little better than using a roller skate as a hat had the idea not been created through a random accident. However, I do sympathize with Carlota being jealous of Leni's newfound relationship with Mariella, so I understand why she tried to get her friend out of the picture so she could go back to being in charge like she was meant to be. Carlota was finally moving up in the fashion studio by no longer being just some person merely running errands after doing so for who knows how long, so you can sort of see why she'd be envious of Leni going from being a low-level intern to a lead fashion show coordinator after only one day on the job. Unfortunately, this is where I have to talk about some of the negatives of the episode. While it should go without saying I have absolutely nothing bad to say about either Carlota or Leni, since both of them were presented very well, had some interesting moments, and their friendship got some development, I can't say anything good about Carl and Sergio. Those two came off as so annoying, super unfunny, and I could not stand them. Even though they indirectly instigated the conflict by saying Leni was going to outshine Carlota, which did in fact turn out to be true, it's their involvement during the second half of the story that brought down the whole mood. I get how Carlota didn't have a lot of time and needed an assistant to help with the giant workload, hence why Leni was hired in the first place, but why Carl and Sergio of all characters? If watching the spinoff taught me anything, it would be how these two are the absolute last ones you should ever trust to do anything without something bad happening. I mean, seriously, by this point in the franchise, Carlota already knows what kind of characters Carl and Sergio are, and she could have literally gotten anyone else to help. If anything, those two could have been written out completely, and it could have been Carlota trying to do everything herself and failing in the process. That would actually carry a lot more weight for her character when the time came for her to admit she screwed up, seeing how her jealousy got the better of her, and she would have paid a huge price for it. But no, she brings her brother and pet Bird to help get everything set up, and everything pretty much went to hell by that point. From ruining the clothing designs to screwing around and fighting during the dress rehearsal when all they were told to do was press a single button to play the pre-selected runway music, it's no wonder all the models quit. These two made things significantly worse like they always do, and don't even get me started with the faces they make while sitting in the car. Those just irritated me in the worst way. But yeah, Carlota had to find Leni and confess to what she had been trying to do, and Leni was willing to forgive her because they're friends. It may not seem like a lot, but just like what happened in Space Jammed, Leni may have been done dirty, but she has too big of a heart to hold a grudge and can never truly lash out at the people she cares about the most. In other words, nothing can fracture the dynamic duo known as Team Carleni. So with Leni's quick thinking when they only had 20 minutes until the show, she and Carlota were able to pull it off thanks in part to the surprise cameos by the Casagrandes and Vito. They may have been silent cameos, but seeing them all together and rocking those fabulous designs was just as good. Based on their success, Team Carleni were hired to work on another show together, so it was great seeing both of them come out as winners. And you know, I'm actually surprised the Changs didn't show up considering Leni was able to get her hands on an elephant. You would think they would be the ones in charge of cleaning up after that thing. Then again, seeing a crap character like Sergio fall face first into elephant crap was absolutely satisfying, so I guess not cleaning up those little oopsies had some unintended benefits. Overall, even though Carl and Sergio's usual brand of stupidity and complete annoyance sucked a lot of air out of the room during the second half of the plot, it's Leni and Carlota who were able to salvage the rest of the episode, and it was still pretty good for the most part. Leni once again excelled in being her own unique fashion designer, and how everything she did was nicely complemented by her silly but always caring personality. Carlota got some good development by exploring her more envious and vindictive side, thus giving her character some authenticity. Just like Leni, she too excelled in showcasing her passion as a designer, and working with her fellow fashion friend landed her the opportunity to work on another modeling show. Maybe we'll get another Casa Grande crossover and see if Carlota's internship rises to the next level. It's doubtful, but hey, I can dream, can I? With that said, I give Fashion No Show an 8 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Fashion No Show. I will end this video with one last question. We've seen crossover pairings with the likes of Sid and Lisa, Lynn Sr. and Rosa, and now Leni and Carlota, and each pairing was made possible thanks in part to a similar trait each of those two characters share. My question to everyone is, what Loud House Casa Grande crossover pairings would you like to see? Reply to the pinned comment down below, and let's see which two characters from these two shows you would want to see hanging out together in a future episode. But anyway, as far as the rest of this episode goes, what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.